What does it take for an entire city to stop breathing at the same time? Not metaphorically. Not people were excited. I mean thousands of voices screaming so loudly that the stadium shook, fans crying before the concert even began, strangers climbing onto nearby rooftops just to hear a single song from outside the venue, and one man standing in the center of it all like he was born for moments this legendary. Because when Jin arrived in Mexico City with BTS, something unforgettable happened. And no one, not the fans, not the media, not even Mexico itself, was prepared for how deeply Jin would capture the country's heart. For 3 nights, Estadio GNP Seguros transformed into more than a concert venue. It became a phenomenon, a purple storm, a place where emotions felt too big for words. Nearly 150,000 fans packed the stadium across the concerts. But honestly, the numbers alone don't even explain what happened there. Because this wasn't just a concert crowd, this was devotion. People traveled across countries, some waited overnight, others stood outside the venue with no tickets at all, hoping just to hear the echo of BTS's voices through the stadium walls. And the second Jin appeared on that giant screen, Mexico erupted. The screams were instant, violent, emotional, like people had been waiting years for this exact moment. And in many ways, they had. This was BTS's first full group solo concert in Mexico in more than 10 years. 10 years. Think about that for a second. An entire generation of fans had grown up waiting for this reunion. Some fans were teenagers the last time BTS performed there. Now they were adults, standing in the same city, crying as the members finally returned. And Jin understood the weight of that moment immediately. You could see it in his eyes. The way he looked around the stadium slowly, almost like he was trying to memorize every face. The way he smiled whenever the crowd screamed his name. The way he kept bowing, waving, placing his hand over his heart. He didn't look distant. He looked overwhelmed with gratitude. And then came the performance that changed everything. Siren. The moment the music started, the atmosphere shifted completely. Fans who were screaming seconds earlier suddenly froze, completely hypnotized by Jin's voice. And honestly, videos online don't even capture how unreal it sounded. Jin's voice wasn't just stable, it was alive. Clear, emotional, smooth, and haunting all at once. People always describe him as having a silver voice, but during Siren, it genuinely felt like the entire stadium was being pulled toward him. Every note floated effortlessly through the air, while the audience watched in total awe. And the craziest thing? He made it look easy. No strain, no panic, no overcompensation, just pure control, pure emotion, pure Jin. Fans later said they forgot to breathe during parts of the performance because they were so stunned by how beautiful he sounded live. But what made the moment even more powerful was Jin himself. Because despite being called worldwide handsome, despite all the praise about his visuals, despite thousands of cameras pointed directly at him, he never performed like someone obsessed with looking perfect. He performed like someone obsessed with making people feel something. And that's exactly what happened. One by one, concert clips began spreading across social media. Then suddenly, non-fans started reacting. At first, it was casual curiosity. Who's that guy singing? Then it became emotional confusion. Wait, why am I emotional watching this? And finally, complete surrender. Comment sections across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X became flooded with messages from people who weren't even ARMY. I'm not a fan, but I got chills. I don't know BTS, but this man is insane. I'm a grown man and I can't stop replaying this. I opened one video and now I've watched 20. I think I just fell in love. That last comment appeared everywhere. Because somehow Jin managed to feel larger than celebrity during those concerts. He felt human, warm, sincere, approachable. Like someone you wanted to protect and admire at the same time. And Mexico noticed every little detail. Especially after the now iconic Lucha Libre moment. On a day without concerts, the BTS members attended a traditional Mexican wrestling event. Most celebrities would probably sit politely, smile for cameras, then leave. Not Jin. Jin looked genuinely thrilled. He reacted like a fan, laughing loudly, watching closely, fully immersed in the experience. And Mexican fans immediately fell even harder for him because Lucha Libre isn't just entertainment there. It's culture, history, national pride. So seeing Jin treat it with genuine excitement instead of detached celebrity politeness meant everything. Then the photos appeared online. Jin standing beside legendary wrestler Mistico. The internet lost it. The crossover instantly became one of the hottest topics online, but then BTS somehow made the moment even more iconic. During the concert itself, Mistico suddenly appeared on stage wearing a white jacket covered with the names of BTS and the members. The crowd exploded so loudly people could barely hear the music. And there was Jin, laughing, smiling, fully embracing the moment like he had become part of the culture overnight. That authenticity changed everything. Because Mexican fans are incredibly passionate, but they're also incredibly sincere when it comes to respect. And they felt respected by Jin. Not marketed to, not used, respected. Then came the moment that emotionally destroyed the entire stadium. Jin speaking Spanish. Now here's the thing people kept mentioning afterward. It wasn't just that he tried speaking the language, it was how he did it. Carefully, gently, with obvious effort put into pronunciation. Fans could hear that he practiced, and somehow that made the moment even more emotional. Then Jin said, "I'm taking away so many wonderful memories of Mexico. Lucha Libre, tacos, the cheers of armies, and even your love. It was a truly happy time. I love you. See you again next time." The reaction was immediate. People screamed, cried, covered their faces. Because in that moment, Jin didn't sound like a global superstar reading prepared lines. He sounded like someone genuinely touched by the country he was visiting. And honestly, that sincerity might be Jin's greatest strength. It's why people who don't even follow BTS still become attached to him after watching one interview or one performance. You can feel when he means something. And Mexico felt it deeply. Soon, social media became absolute chaos. AMOR JIN in Mexico started trending globally. His merch sold out almost instantly. Fans began posting emotional edits comparing Jin to a romantic movie lead character. Mexican television channels started using his image repeatedly while covering the BTS concerts. One news outlet even used photos of Jin and Mistico as the main thumbnail because public interest around Jin had become so massive. And honestly, the funniest part was watching non-fans slowly become Jin stans against their own will. You'd see comments like, "I came for one clip and now I know his entire name. I don't even listen to K-pop, but this man has insane charisma. How is he this handsome and this talented? Why does he feel so comforting?" That last comment hit especially hard, because Jin has always had this unusual ability to feel emotionally safe to people, even in giant stadiums, even under blinding lights. He somehow creates intimacy in impossible situations. And then there was the concert itself. The scale was unbelievable. The audience sang Korean lyrics word for word. Entire sections moved in sync. Fans cried during ment segments, and when BTS performed Airplane P.2 with the lyric "We going from Mexico City," the entire stadium practically exploded from emotion. It became one of the defining moments of the entire tour. Because it wasn't just a lyric anymore. It was real. BTS really came back. And Mexico really welcomed them home. Even outside the venue, the excitement became historic. Over 1 million people reportedly attempted to buy tickets. Thousands gathered outside without entry passes just to exist near the concerts. Roads were temporarily blocked from the crowds. Businesses filled with fans. Hotels overflowed. Restaurants exploded with visitors. Economists estimated that BTS's visit could generate over $100 million for Mexico City's economy. Think about how powerful that is. Music creating economic waves across an entire city. That's why people call it BTS-nomics. But even among all 7 members shining together, Jin created a particularly emotional reaction in Mexico. Maybe it was his voice, maybe it was his visuals, maybe it was the sincerity in his eyes whenever he smiled at the crowd, or maybe it was because Jin represents something people desperately crave these days: genuine warmth. Not manufactured charm, not forced perfection, just warmth. And by the final night, it honestly felt like something had shifted emotionally between Jin and Mexico forever. Fans didn't want him to leave. You could hear it in the chants, see it in the tears, feel it in the silence between songs. And when the members promised they would return, the crowd reacted like they were holding on to hope itself. Because some concerts entertain people. Some concerts become memories. But these concerts, they became emotional history. And somehow, through all the noise, all the screaming, all the lights and fireworks and headlines, the image people kept returning to was surprisingly simple. Jin smiling softly at the audience, like he couldn't believe how much love Mexico was giving him. Maybe that's why this moment became so special. Not because a superstar visited a country, but because an entire country looked at Jin and saw someone worth loving back.